The gentleman from Washington is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to our distinguished panelists for this insightful testimony and what's been a long day. Mr. Speaker, it's a real honor to be able to ask you a few questions. When you're a freshman in this body, you see a lot of portraits on the wall, and frankly, you don't know who a lot of the people are, but I think the American people always remember you in the mark you've left on this institution. The question I have for you is just to comment on the situation the American people find themselves in, because I think this is a very dangerous and perilous time for America, because I think the American people think the fix is in. And you talk to the average person in my district, and they look at a situation where over 12 million people came into the country illegally, and there was no remedy to stop that procedurally from their elected officials. And now they look at a situation where after they had an election, they had a president that clearly campaigned on this issue, and they look at dangerous gang members who spread fentanyl that's killed over 100,000 Americans, more than died in Vietnam, more than died in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they say, well, let's get these people out of here. This is what we just voted for. And yet now there's a system where the one judge or a few judges in a certain area after judge shopping can stop. So they look at the situation and say, is there any remedy to this? I mean, what is the future of the republic if what they just voted for is something as egregious as dangerous, hardened gang members from a foreign country, in the country illegal, spreading a deadly drug that is killing over 100,000 Americans, and they say, well, how is this supposed to work? So what would be your comment to these people?
Welcome back to Right View Nation, the home of common sense, conservative values, and unshakable patriotism. If you love this country and believe in truth, justice, and the Constitution, then you're in the right place. Today, I want to talk about something that's more than just politics. This is about the very survival of our republic, because what we just heard from former Speaker Newt Gingrich is a wake-up call. And I mean a 5-alarm red alert, grab the Constitution and hold the line kind of wake-up call. That's right. According to Newt, 82% of the American people believe the system is corrupt. Now let me ask you, how did we get here? How did we go from being the shining city on a hill to a place where 8 out of 10 people feel like the government is rigged against them? Well, let's break it down. And let me tell you, it's not complicated.
Well, 3 quick things. First, I run a project called the America's New Majority Project. And if you ask the American people, do you think the system is corrupt? 82% say yes. Now that's really dangerous in a free society. I don't care what your ideology, what your partisanship is. When more than 8 out of every 10 of your fellow Americans think the system's corrupt, you have a deep challenge to somehow break through, really on a nonpartisan basis. Second, President Lincoln once said, with public sentiment, anything is possible. Without public sentiment, nothing is possible. And I think it's very important for every judge who thinks they want to impose themselves on the president to ask themselves, are you putting the entire judicial system in disrepute? Because if the country sees really sort of, by the standards of most Americans, fairly radical positions being taken by judges, blocking what is the clear will of the American people, not just the president, I think that it literally puts the entire underlying system under enormous stress and leads to popular dissatisfaction in a way that's very, very dangerous. The stability of the system ultimately requires that all of us find a way to work together, to behave in such a way that people no longer think the system's corrupt.
And Mr. Speaker, just finally, you referenced Thomas Jefferson, one of our founding fathers, one of the founding revolutionaries of this country, the author of the Declaration of Independence, in your opening statement. I was able to visit the White House for the first time last week and got to meet President Trump there. And as we came in, we exchanged some pleasantries, and there was a kind of a humorous moment because neither of us knew quite what to do because staff wasn't telling us. And as we had this kind of moment of silence, and he said, "Well, can I show you the Declaration of Independence?" And he turned around and showed it to me that was on his wall, and he was very proud he just had it installed. And so it was kind of a fun moment, as you can imagine, for any American citizen, particularly a freshman member of Congress. But I hear you loud and clear, and I hope on what you think is the best remedy at this point is that Chief Justice Roberts steps in and brings some clarity and some sanity to the craziness right now. But if he didn't, and President Jefferson were sitting in the White House or the president right now, what do you think President Jefferson would do if Chief Justice Roberts wouldn't step in and help this issue?
You know, the Jeffersonians as a group were bitterly anti-judge. The number 2 demand in the American Revolution, after no taxation without representation, was their hatred of the British judges, because they were appointed by the king, served at the king's convenience, and were seen as the oppressors imposing the law of a foreign government on the American people. And Jefferson had grown out of that tradition. Jefferson's probably the most radical of the founding fathers. And the Jeffersonians ran essentially on cleaning up the judiciary. This is why the whole thing with Marshall is such a wonderful example of a sleight of hand. Because if you look at the Judicial Act of in 1801, after they lose the election, the Federalists passed the Judiciary Act of 1801, which creates judges, many of whom were being appointed literally the night before Jefferson sworn in. So they were called the midnight judges. Well, the Jeffersonians thought, we're not going to have this. So they write the Judiciary Act of 1802, and they wipe out, as I said at the beginning of my statement, they wipe out, I think, 16 of them, 14 of which were actually occupied. I got into this because a good friend of mine who's a great lawyer said those must have been vacant, because after all, it's a lifetime appointment. No, we went back and pulled up the biographies. These 14 guys had to go out and get a job. I mean, they were gone. And so I think Marshall knew, you pushed Jefferson very hard. I mean, a guy who buys half a continent, sends the Marines to Tripoli, you really want to play this game? And they didn't. I mean, he's if you read Marbury versus Madison, it's a brilliantly clever device in which he says, we really have this authority, but you don't have to worry about it because we ain't going to give it to him. So, you know, Marbury doesn't get his writ. Well, so he tweaked Jefferson, but he knew if he tweaked him too much, he would probably have replaced the whole Supreme Court. I mean, the Jeffersonians were very tough about this stuff. I think Jefferson also was very practical. And I think what Jefferson would say is, you've raised the issue, you've begun to get the country aware. You might consider as a first step, Chairman Issa's bill, there may be, I'm not suggesting this, but I'm responding to your question. It may be speculatively at some point that the most radical and dumbest of the decisions could lead to interrogatories to the judges, first in writing. It might even be conceivable at some point that the judges might be brought in under oath to explain what's the I mean, how did you think of this? What's the constitutional basis? Why are you doing this? I mean, there are many ways one could pursue this. My hope is that the comments we've made here today will in fact move the Chief Justice to eliminate the problem and to get back to a situation where no single district judge is an alternative president, and where we can have greater respect for the court system because the court system has greater respect for us.
I thank you all. It's been a long day, and although my closing statement I'll read in a
We've got a broken border. Over 12 million illegal aliens, and that's a conservative estimate, have waltzed into our country like it's a shopping mall. No ID, no vetting, no respect for the law. Just walk on in. And who pays the price? We do. Our communities are overrun. Fentanyl is pouring in by the truckload, killing over 100,000 Americans a year. That's more than we lost in Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan combined, and yet our government lets it happen. We had an election. The people made their voices heard. We chose a leader who promised to stop this madness, to put America first, and to restore sanity to immigration policy. And what happens? Some unelected judge in some far-left district decides they know better than you. One judge, one activist in a robe can halt the will of millions of voters with a single ruling. Let me say it again. One unelected judge has the power to override the will of the American people. That's not democracy. That's not a republic. That's judicial tyranny, plain and simple. And Gingrich nailed it. He said, when judges abuse their power like this, they bring the entire judicial system into disrepute. And he's right. When Americans see these politically motivated rulings, when they see gang members and drug traffickers getting more protection than law-abiding citizens, it's no wonder they believe the system is corrupt. This isn't just about court rulings. This is about faith in the system. And when that faith is gone, so is the republic. You don't have a country if the people don't trust the government. You have chaos, you have resentment, and you have tyranny. Now, Newt also brought up a great historical point. Let's talk about Thomas Jefferson, the man who wrote the Declaration of Independence, who fought tyranny tooth and nail, and who didn't trust judges for a second. You know what Jefferson did when the courts got out of control? He shut them down. After the Corrupt Judiciary Act of 1801, the Jeffersonians came in and eliminated 16 judges, 14 of whom were already on the bench. Gone. Fired. Why? Because they were midnight judges, appointed in a last-ditch effort by the losing party to hold on to power. Jefferson didn't whine about it. He took action. He cleaned house. And you know what? We might need that same energy today. Look, I'm not saying we go Jefferson 2.0 and start kicking down courtroom doors, but I am saying this. We cannot sit back and allow the judiciary to become a rogue branch of government. We need accountability. We need transparency. And yes, Newt even floated the idea of interrogatories, making these judges explain themselves. Put it in writing. Tell us your constitutional basis for blocking immigration laws that were passed by Congress and approved by the president. Let the American people see what you're really doing and why. But here's the bigger issue. Where is Chief Justice Roberts? Why hasn't he stepped in? Why is he letting these district judges run wild, like substitute teachers in a school with no principal? If the courts are broken, and they are, then it's time for the chief to act. And if he won't, then maybe Congress needs to step up, because this is getting out of hand. We cannot have a system where every time the American people vote for change, a judge strikes it down. That's not democracy. That's dictatorship, disguised in a black robe. My fellow patriots, we're standing at a crossroads. One road leads to tyranny, where the elite rule and the people get silenced. The other road, it leads back to the Constitution, back to the founders, back to liberty, and it starts with us. If you're tired of the lies, tired of being ignored, tired of watching your country be run by unelected elites who mock everything you believe in, then it's time to stand up. Join Right View Nation, subscribe, share this video, drop a comment below, and tell us how you feel about the state of our country. And more importantly, call your representatives. Let them know we're watching, we're awake, and we will not go quietly into the night. Because we are Americans, we are patriots, and we are the last line of defense against tyranny. God bless you, God bless the Constitution, and may God bless the United States of America.